So the first question I have for you is for someone that is completely new to all of this information, how would you explain the carnivore diet and why do you believe this is the optimal human diet?
Well, the carnivore diet, is the optimal human diet, and then we look at that from anthropological, paleoanthropological records with things called the stable isotope research. We can actually see what, based on the different isotopes that are in the bones, we can see what people are eating. It's called a trophic level. See how far up the food chain they were, and we find that humans were more carnivorous than even lions, hyenas, foxes, and wolves alive at the same time in the same area. So we have been hyper carnivores and apex predators for over 2 million years. We can eat some plants, some more safely than others. But by cooking them, fermenting them, preparing them in different ways, we can lower some of that toxic load. And make them more safe and give us more of a survival advantage if food is scarce. Okay, so that's good. It's good that we have that robust nature. Lions, they run out of meat, they starve to death, they die, right? So we are not in that camp. We can survive on other things. But the simple fact that we have to ferment, we have to soak and boil and cook and soak in lye and ash and clay and all these different sorts of things to sap out some of these toxins that we can't contend with and open up the bioavailability, because some of the ways that plants defend themselves is by locking up their nutrients in ways that doesn't allow us to access them, because we don't have the enzymes to break them down, and we don't have the enzymes to break down certain toxins. We get sick from them. Um, Even low grade sickness, but you're talking about exposure over years and decades. It builds up illnesses. This is why we don't get type 2 diabetes, at 5 years old. So people in their 40s and 50s are getting type 2 diabetes. It takes time to wear down your system. And so, but slow poison is still poison. And so, but the simple fact that we have to cook and ferment and do a chemical process in order to break down these toxins and break down these chemical bonds to release the nutrients means that we are not designed to eat them, because we don't have the natural enzymes and ability to break these toxins down and to break down these chemical bonds to extract these nutrients. That's very clear. If you can't extract nutrients from a plant to get basic nutrition, you obviously are not designed to eat that plant. And so we can, through technology, eat more varieties of things, but that doesn't mean that that's optimal for us. And it actually proves that it's not our designed biologically optimal diet, because we do not have the capacity to break those things down. So carnivore diet is really just eating optimal nutrition, meat and animal fat, and avoiding things that can be harmful, largely coming from plants. But we've introduced a lot of harmful chemicals in our society now as well. So you could incorporate that too, just trying to avoid these things. A lot of these agrochemicals that are sprayed, these toxins, the glyphosate, the pesticides, insecticides, and things like that, they get sprayed on crops. And so you're also avoiding those agrochemicals and those glyphosates by just eating meat. Now, some of those animals are eating those crops. And that's why people often find that they do better with ruminant meat, red meat, and water versus pork and chicken and even farmed fish, because they don't have the non-ruminant animals, things like pigs and chickens. They have just one stomach. They don't break down and ferment things. That fermentation process seems to filter out more of the agrochemicals, even glyphosate, potentially. So you're filtering out more. Basically, you're trying to filter out all these harmful toxins and just get the nutrients. So the herbivores do all that work for you. They do all the hard work. They extract all those nutrients out, and they concentrate it in a form that's very bioavailable to us. And they filter out all these different toxins, either because they're designed to break them down, so they have the capacity to break them down, or that fermentation process breaks it down, or their body detoxifies it somehow. By the time it gets to our plate, it's fine. That's another thing. We know these plant defensive chemicals, which now we've categorized, classified, and named nearly 1 million defense chemicals that plants use. So this is hard science. You can look this up in any botany textbook or horticulture book about all the different things, plants you can eat and can't eat, and what you have to do to prepare them safely. Um, then you say, well, these different chemicals and compounds, no, they're good for you because they do X, Y, and Z and all that sort of stuff. And you can make up a lot of things. But the fact of the matter is we know these things are toxins because our body doesn't use them for different mechanisms. Don't use it for building blocks. They're not used in different metabolic functions or hormone production or anything like that. Our body detoxifies them. Our body tries to break them down and get them out of your body as soon as possible. So we know these are toxins because your body is trying to detoxify them. It doesn't use them for anything. It just tries to eliminate them and get them the hell out. So that is the definition of a toxin. This is something that can cause harm and your body does not use at all and just trying to break it down and get it out. Right. So that's another piece of evidence that we're not designed to eat these things. So that's really it. You're just eating meat, eggs, water. If you have autoimmune disease, stick to red meat and water. Even eggs and dairy can trigger autoimmune issues. And so my version of a carnivore diet is trying to be as optimal. If we're talking about optimal nutrition, then you really want to be, pretty pure meat because that's all the nutrition you need. The meat is the only superfood. It's the only one single source of nutrition that you can eat your entire life and get absolutely perfect nutrition throughout your entire life and never have any problems. And it doesn't come with any harmful toxins. They say saturated fat and cholesterol, but those have been decisively proven to not cause any harm in the body and actually can be beneficial in many ways. And so you're getting everything you need and nothing you don't need. And so that's what I think is the best way. Now, some people include this, that, or the other, and that's their business. But I don't include any of that because these plants do have defensive chemicals. Some of them aren't that bad, but building up over time, it can be a problem. I've had seasonings and things. I got meat sticks and things like that. And then I'm sore for 5 days after working out. I'm never sore after working out unless I eat something like that. And then all of a sudden I am because there are toxins in there. Spices in particular have that strong flavor. That's your brain warning you that there's something bad in there. You should spit out. And there's even a book by a professor at Berkeley called Most Delicious Poisons. And the subtitle is From Spices to Vices, all the different plant toxins that we use, in our life. And it talks about these different seasonings and spices and how toxic they are. This is actually the most toxic part of that plant. And that's where we get such a big taste response, is that because they're toxic and your brain is trying to warn you, don't eat these things. This is why kids can't really handle spicy food because they're much more sensitive to things and they're much closer to their genetic origins where they taste broccoli, taste something like, oh God, no, that's bad. I don't want to eat that. Right. And you should listen to that. I've never seen a deer go, oh God, no, you know, they just eat. Deer eat what deer eat. Right. Kids don't have a problem with breast milk. Why is that? Because that's meant for them. Right. And then you start giving them bacon or meat and they're like, yes, this is good for me. Then you give them broccoli and you're like, oh dear God, no. That's their natural instincts telling them that there's something wrong there. And you should really pay attention to that because no other animal on earth has a problem like we do with feeding our kids. So my rule for myself and what I have to stick to and what I recommend for people is just eating a lot of fatty meat. Make sure you're getting enough fat, 1 to 2 grams of fat to 1 gram of protein. You eat fatty meat until it stops tasting good. You eat as many times during the day as your body's telling you to. It's pretty intuitive. And it should be. Koalas don't pull out calculators to figure out their macros. They just know what to eat, right? And we should be able to as well. And then so you got the eating part down. Okay, now what do you not eat? No plants or mushrooms, no sugar or any sweeteners, and nothing artificial. And that goes for sauces, seasonings, and drinks as well. And so, coffee is a plant, honey is sugar, that sort of thing. So for me, I cut all those things out and I feel much better doing that. And if people want to add certain things back in, that's their business. But I'm just trying to describe what I find to be have the best outcomes in people's health and lives and certainly from a medical standpoint and just how they feel. And if you cut all these things out for a few months and then you add one thing back in and you find that, yeah, I'm okay with that, fine, do what you want. But, just understanding those principles and understanding that the optimal way of eating is just getting nutrition and avoiding everything that can cause harm. And that's optimal.